Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let's face it, gentlemen. This is Sean here with History Garage, and we got ourselves a hell of a example of a German officer's coat, his handguns, the boxes that they all came back in, and his camera. This is one hell of an example that this all survived. This jacket is a model 1945 jacket. It is, I believe it's lambskin, if I'm not mistaken. The handguns are a Mauser pre-war 1934 and 1910. The jacket has the original green liner in it still. And this was all brought home by one veteran, whose name I will not repeat to protect the privacy of his family. He was an armored car driver during the Second World War. And the story that I was told is that he stopped at an airfield in Belgium, and this is what was inside. And we have the paperwork for it all right here. This is a German ammo can that is for a 9mm Luger, which kind of cool that it came with it. There's a safety deposit box for a bank in which we do not know where the bank was or who it even belonged to. We have two handguns, a bayonet, a camera, the holster, the jacket, and the Spicy Man's lapel pin. Now, this jacket is in phenomenal shape and held up quite a bit better than the guns did. The liner is still present, even though the tag has ripped off of it that had the officer's name in it, so we will not be able to tell who this may or may not have belonged to. All I know is that he was a member of the Nazi Party prior to the war. That would be my guess based off of his age, or the age of whoever this jacket probably belonged to. The party pins here, these were actually fairly common, and they still are pretty common, but you only got those if you were a member of the party, so it kind of narrows that down. We have the original holster and pistol belt with the eagle that is embroidered, along with the magazine. And this is the handgun that belongs to this particular belt, and I will show you the other handgun here in a few moments. We can see that the officer modified it to make it easier to draw, so that he could just slip his hand in over that. Very unique. It's also private purchase, because if you'd have done this to a piece of military equipment that wasn't yours, you would have gotten probably beaten. Well, I mean, he was an officer. No one's going to beat him, but yep. We have his bayonet with a date of 1933 on the blade. We have the box for the said handgun, still with the original wrapping in it, along with all of the packing. That is cool. That is very cool that that even survived. It's a miracle that any of this stuff actually survived at all, because the story that I was told is that Dad packed everything away into this ammo can and had it in a barn, and the barn burned down back in the 70s. Somehow this managed to have survived, and it remained in his family ever since, until he passed away in '96. And I ran into a gun store to purchase a handgun one day, and I ran into his son, and him and I made a deal for the collection. So we have everything that the man brought home, including the paperwork that came from the Army and the precursor to the ATF, which is the IRS. Now, speaking of the IRS, and I know that they like their money, we got something unique in here. We got not only the handgun, another handgun, but we have the officer's coin purse. Now that is cool that this even survived. It's extremely, extremely old. It's very German, if I can even get it open. And we can see that it was silk lined at one point, just like this kind of liner, but it hasn't survived as well. A little bit of mothing, just age. We have the green porcelain buttons. That is telltale of the 40s production. You will see a lot of these on vintage clothing. Those are original. We have the original green military buttons on the inside too, and those ones are enamel. They held up extremely well. The belt is in phenomenally good shape. We got a little bit of separating back here on this side, but that's to be expected with its age. We have the clasps, and we have the lapel pin, which I'm not going to take that off the jacket, but it is an original. And it came with everything here. We have the paperwork. Now, this piece of paper here is interesting because it only lists the camera and one of the pistols, the pistol chambered in .32. Now, there's a unique story behind that. I believe Mr. Redacted didn't even bother to tell his commanding officer about the pocket pistol that was most likely hidden in the pocket of the coat, and no one even noticed it was there until they were like, shit, we got a handgun. That is a Kodak Duoflex 620. It's from the 1930s. And that camera is the one that's listed right there, 620. And the one pistol is listed there. I believe that he did not bother to even say anything about the other one because back in the 40s, $200 was a lot more money than it is today. And they were already coming after him to try to register the .32. Why would he even tell them about the .25? Which, that makes sense to me. They came up with some absurd determination that if you removed a bunch of parts and filed some stuff down, that it could become a machine pistol, which is basically what is explained in these letters here that are corresponding between the original veteran who brought them home. So he only admits to having the one gun, because why tell them about the other, and the camera, and that's signed by his commanding officer. And then we have a notification from the Treasury that he sent them, and he said, I have in my possession the following described trophy of war, which I wish to register. One German handgun, serial number 397725, which you'll see is the one that matches the .32. Then here comes the government doing what they do best, trying to come after this poor veteran for $200 and some. And he tells them, I have it in my possession, that's it. And they never did anything. It's really an unusual story that they even attempted to try to make these illegal. They just didn't want veterans to have free guns. That was all. We have the holster. That is actually the brooch off of an officer's cap, like the visor caps that would be up here. Kind of unique. I do not know if that was added by the Luftwaffe officer who brought this home, or I mean the officer who carried this, or if it was added by the veteran because he thought it looked cool. It's most definitely an original, and it's extremely old, and it's been there for a very, very long time. So I would be surprised if it wasn't the officer's personal item. All this stuff was private purchase, like I said. If you attempted to modify a piece of military-issued gear, you would get in a lot of trouble with your quartermasters. But being that he was an officer of, I assume, some significant rank, and that they were all his personal items, he could do with them as he pleases, until he leaves them in an airfield and some yank comes on and takes them home with him. Which is basically what happened. So all this stuff should have burned in the fire back in, I believe he said it was the 70s. And somehow, some way, it all survived and it doesn't have any smoke damage. Could not believe it. It is literally a story too good to be true to pass up. And another thing that was included in the box is this certificate for $1,000 given by a civilian to the General John C. Pershing Foundation for World War I. It's a war bond. That would be the equivalent of about $21,000 in today's money, which was an insane amount of money back then. It also goes to show you how bad inflation has truly, truly become. That's proof in the pudding right there. If you look, we have the original cartridge that was in the .32, and it was loaded when I got it. And that is from 1928, and I believe this is a French bullet. So kind of unusual. It tells you where, where the Luftwaffe officer, I'm gonna call him the major, where the major might have gone. That was kind of neat. He clearly went to France at one point. This is the only round that we have with it, and it's the only round of ammunition that's on the table. All these guns are clear and have been cleared safe prior to this. These guys are freaking really, really neat. They do not have a magazine magazine release in a typical sense like you would imagine. They are European style hill releases, and they do this unique thing that when they're cocked open, you've shot all your cartridges, the gun is cycled, you remove your magazine, you grab another one, and when you slam it in, you can see I'm not touching anything. I'm just holding it by the grip. And when this goes all the way forward, it drops the slide all on its own. No need to push a button. This is your safety, and that is your safety release. These are striker-fired handguns, which is really unique. They were not the first ones, but the first truly successful ones, in my opinion. They were the most successful common ones. Not the first, but still somewhere up there. This is just a baby version of the one that's in the holster. You can see they are basically identical. Just Dr. Evil and Mini-Me. The holster, or the guns themselves are unique. They're very easy to disassemble. You just rotate this little needle, pull that out, and then your barrel comes right off. And you can see right down there, and it's still got some decent rifling left. The 32, or the 25 held up a little bit better than the 32, but that was also probably because it was in his coat pocket and wasn't exposed to the elements. I imagine he was an officer and he carried these on his daily. Clearly he felt the need to carry one gun and then to have another that no one knew about, which was also, at the time, tucked in the pocket here with said coin purse. Now that's a pretty snazzy little spot to be able to just, you know, you're a pilot, you're an officer, you're in World War II, somebody takes your gun off of you, okay, cool, I got another. You know, just no one knows about, no one needs to. We actually have the original hanger that the jacket came on, and we can see that it is the original, and it is extremely, extremely old. And it's present. It's not the strongest, but it is present. Well, honestly, there is just so much unique history here, and the fact that this all survived in as good a shape as it did. That is truly, truly something special. Mr. Redacted, I would really love to thank you for your service in the war and for your service in defeating the evil empire and the evil empires of humanity. This is truly unique, and I am very happy to have been able to have brought this all to you this evening. I hope you enjoy this as much as I have, and I'm looking forward to showing you more cool stuff here on History Garage.